The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. There was a scholar of the law who stood up to test him and said, "Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus said to him, "What is written in the law? How do you read it?" He said in reply, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your being, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." He replied to him, "You have answered correctly. Do this and you will live." But because he wished to justify himself, he said to Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Jesus replied, "A man fell victim to robbers as he went down from Jerusalem to Jericho. They stripped and beat him and went off, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down that road, but when he saw him, he passed by on the opposite side. Likewise, a Levite came to the place, and when he saw him, he passed by on the opposite side. But a Samaritan traveler who came upon him was moved with compassion at the sight. He approached the victim, poured oil and wine over his wounds, and bandaged them. Then he lifted him up on his animal and took him to an inn and cared for him. The next day he took out 2 silver coins and gave them to the innkeeper with the instruction, "Take care of him. If you spend more than what I have given you, I shall repay you on my way back." Which of these 3, in your opinion, was neighbor to the robber's victim? He answered, "The one who treated him with mercy." Jesus said to him, "Go and do likewise." The Gospel of the Lord. I'm not sure how many of you remember Bishop Flores. Bishop Flores was an auxiliary bishop here in the Archdiocese, maybe 10 years ago, a little less. For just 3 years, he was a native of San Antonio, and then was named Bishop of Brownsville, Texas, where he's at right now. But Bishop Flores was speaking to a group of women one day. I think it was the Women's Conference for the Archdiocese. And he told them, it's really not that difficult. Say your prayers, be nice to people. That's it. Say your prayers, be nice to people. And that's pretty much what Jesus says at the beginning of today's gospel. Jesus goes a little bit more into depth about it, but basically he tells us, loving the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our mind, with all our strength. Loving God, saying our prayers. And love your neighbor as you love yourself. Be nice to people. It's almost kind of unbelievable. I walked into, I guess you could say, my own Good Samaritan situation many years ago when I was in Japan, and I was going to visit a priest friend of mine. I'd never been to his rectory before, so I took the train, and as I got off the train, I knew I just had to go down the hill, down the street about 8 or 10 blocks, and that's where the rectory was. So as I was walking down the hill, there was an elderly gentleman walking towards me, and he was kind of shuffling along, not going very fast. And all of a sudden, I was still just maybe a block from the train station, and all of a sudden this elderly gentleman tripped and fell. Maybe he was on the sidewalk crack or something, I don't know. Tripped and fell, and his head hit the ground. And I remember kind of running over to him and asking him if he was okay, and his glasses had fallen off, and his head was bleeding a little bit. And I thought, oh man, what do we do? What do I do? What do I do? So I did know in Japan, in the different neighborhoods, whatever neighborhood you live in, there's a police box. There's also a police station, a big police station in the city. But in most neighborhoods, there's a police box where 2 or 3 police officers are stationed there during the day in case there's any problems, any issues. That's where you go rather than calling the police on the phone. So I thought if I knew where the police box was, I could take him there, but I'm not sure I could even get him up by himself. So people were walking towards me, walking towards the train station. And I would like call out to them saying, excuse me, and I'd point to this man who had fallen. And just like in today's gospel, they crossed the street and went to the other side, or they went like this and walked past me, and I'm sure there were 100 excuses. The Japanese are usually like about 5'2" and 100 pounds, and I'm slightly bigger than that, so maybe they were afraid of me. And the fact that I was a foreigner, of course, as well, was something that didn't settle. But you could see, obviously, this poor man. And he needed somebody to help. I needed somebody to help pick him up, and kind of help him walk to the police station. I had no idea where that was. We'd have to go look for it. It took me probably 10 minutes. People driving by, and just ignoring us. With all of the right excuses in the world, I'm sure. They're too busy, they're going to work, they have to go here, they have to go there, they have to get home, whatever the reasons are. Finally, a young mother with her toddler, maybe 2 or 3-year-old child, was walking by, and she saw what I was dealing with, and she came over and she was holding her toddler's hand and helped me get the man up, and she was from the neighborhood, so she knew where the police box was. And as soon as we started walking towards the police box, the police officers saw us, and so they came over and took the gentleman to the police box, and it was over, at least as far as I was concerned. But all these people that passed us by, all these people that had good and legitimate excuses why they couldn't help somebody else. We come up with so many, to us at least, justifiable excuses. Well, I didn't go to church because, well, it was the 4th of July and I didn't know where the church was in the neighborhood. We all have phones. Come on, look it up. But we make up these wonderful excuses. And we believe them, so we believe that God's going to believe them as well. The most important thing, as Jesus tells us, is to love your neighbor. Who is our neighbor? It's not only the person that is sitting next to us or living next to us or down the street. It's any person that you come into, that you encounter on the street, in the store, wherever it may be. That person is your neighbor. And yes, you must love him or her. It's really very simple, like Bishop Flores said. Say your prayers. Be nice to people.